And we're really glad to have with us today Steve Winawer from Takeda Pharmaceuticals. And again, Steve is another one of the digital health leaders that we keep in touch with to find out what is happening on the front lines of digital health and healthcare delivery and life sciences. Steve, welcome to the program today.
Thank you.
Let's start off with just a little bit of background on you and your journey and what you do.
So I lead the data, digital, and technology function for the U.S. business unit in Takeda. I've been working in pharma for about 24 years, starting out in Pfizer, and then a journey that's landed me here in Takeda most recently.
Well, that's fantastic, and certainly we've followed a lot of what Takeda is doing. Takeda is really one of the leading life science companies with what they're doing, not just on the operational level, but with Takeda Ventures and all the good things that they're building there. And provide us a little bit of context here relative to healthcare and what you're doing. How are you perceiving the digital health divide and how it's impacting patient access to essential medical information and services, and what role are you seeing your department playing in addressing these issues?
So when we talk about the digital divide, I think it's important to recognize that what in some parts of the country, we all say, well, I can go get my answers from Dr. Google. I can just look it up. I've got a computer. I can find answers. I've got the time and I've got resources to go get lots and lots of information. But taking that for granted is the first example of that digital divide. Folks that don't have access to that information or those tools to be able to understand what are the options, understand more about what's going on. So one of the things that we look to do is to try to make those resources, education resources, available in different forums so that we can start bridging and making that information available regardless of the tools that our caregivers and patients have.
Brilliant. And when it comes to this equation and it's kind of the calculus around this, data collection and analysis is so critical. And how does Takeda collect and analyze the data to identify gaps in health information or the disparities in patient outcomes? And what kind of strategies are you guys deploying to cover these gaps?
So it starts with the patient journey. And as we get data from a number of sources, like all pharma companies, we get data from a number of sources, whether it's ethnographic data, claims data, or data that we collect by way of the interactions we have with patients and caregivers. We map that along that patient journey. And we then can start to understand in each of those moments in their journey, what is the information that they don't have or that they do? And then we can see by those areas, how do we close the gap? How do we see the gap where they don't have access to an information or a therapy or something to help make a decision?
That makes a ton of sense too. So when you are looking at this, could you share a little bit of examples? Can you share some examples of successful projects or partnership where Takeda has worked to reduce information gaps and help to ensure that healthcare professionals and their patients actually have access to this kind of more accurate and more up-to-date information? That's so important.
So I think I'll call out one area. So Takeda has a program overall called OnePath, where we provide services to our rare disease and plasma therapy patients to help patients and caregivers along that journey of access to care and sustaining the care. And it can be basic services or some specifics to that therapy. That program's really, I believe, best in class. And it leverages the data about the journey. We have professionals who are talking to patients, HCPs, and caregivers with information that they can provide for whatever resource they need at that moment in the care. So we're providing them with patient resources, whether it's a video or just a mailer that will send, hey, here's how to do something like this. Can be home infusion or just sharps disposal or whatever's necessary along the journey.
That's great. And let's dive into that a little bit more too. And and certainly talk about how your department is collaborating with external stakeholders like governments and NGOs, and certainly different tech companies and research groups like HITLAB to address this kind of digital and informational divide in healthcare and whatnot. What kind of work are you guys doing and aligning with external stakeholders to meet these needs?
So I think the way to think about it, the fundamental is, how do I remove the friction? Because every step along that journey, anything we can do to remove the friction. So with our partners, it could be digitizing enrollment forms, or it can be understanding with specialty pharma, guys like that, or whoever, what are they see, exchanging and working as partners to understand what are those barriers, those friction points in the system, and then try to get them out.
It's fantastic. And when you are identifying friction points and trying to understand how to work with them better, and just looking at the evolution of digital health technologies and how fast it's evolving now, particularly with AI and data analytics, how does Takeda stay at the forefront of innovation to make sure that all of these different technologies are being brought in to address these gaps and drive improvements in health outcomes?
So I think I want to insert something that's core to Takeda, which is our focus on patient trust, reputation. And so as we identify these capabilities, we're looking to make sure that those capabilities align with what's going to help the patient. How do we use data in a way that maintains our priorities around trust and reputation? So what we do is we empower the colleagues in our teams to understand what's out there, and then to use it properly to help that moment in the journey. And it's about keeping that focus on what problem are we solving, what are we solving for the patient and the caregiver. And so we can apply, whether it's AI or something as simple as an automation, to help that friction.